We do have a lot of webinars in the archive already, and those can be found on our Living Well website. And the easiest way to find that is just do a search, KSRE Living Well Wednesday. It should pop up at the top of your list, or contact your local extension office if you have any trouble finding these. The registration link and descriptions of our upcoming programs will be there. Also, all the recordings and the supporting resources for past webinars. There are a wide range of topics that relate to what family consumer sciences agents do in their local communities. And you'll see a vast array of things represented there just to help people live well.
The power of sleep, common root causes of illness in women, and the keys to a healthy and balanced diet are the focus for the first 3 K-State Research and Extension Living Well Wednesday Winter-Spring Series webinars for 2024. The series, the second Wednesday of the month from 12:10 until 1 p.m., provides an opportunity to learn more about the things that can make our lives better. On today's Sound Living, an overview of the Winter-Spring Living Well Wednesday webinars for January, February, and March. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. K-State Extension Family and Consumer Sciences Specialist for the Northeast region, Sharolyn Jackson, says the topic for the January 10th Living Well Wednesday webinar, Sleep is a Superpower, will look at all of the things that happen while we sleep and how inadequate sleep negatively impacts our health. Sharolyn, I think we're maybe into the 3rd year of Living Well Wednesday and getting ready for the next installment. That'll be really the winter series.
Yes, we're looking forward to our winter series, and we have a specific focus this year on topics that are of interest to women and women's health. Not just women, of course, but tend to be more focused in that direction.
There's some carryover there because one of the things you're going to be doing is in January, and that is really focusing on sleep being a superpower. I don't think there's anybody you can talk to that says, yes, I get enough sleep. Nobody gets enough sleep.
You don't hear that very often. Sometimes we might think that sleep is maybe a waste of time, or it's that one thing we can cut back on because our lives are busy and stressed. And I hate to admit I can fall into that category myself. Then others struggle to fall asleep or to stay asleep or, just to get that good quality sleep that they need. And so what I really like about our guest speaker, Michelle Lane, is that she talks about the real science behind sleep, why it's so important, lays that foundation. And there's a whole lot that's going on while you're sleeping, and we don't really think about that.
And she's really someone who is in the medical field.
She is. She's a senior director for community wellness and corporate health at North Kansas City Hospital and has a number of medical credentials to her name. So we're looking forward. I've heard her presentation. It's really wonderful. And she talks a lot about what actually happens when you sleep, why it's so important, why it is that superpower, and then strategies for how to get enough sleep, how to get the adequate sleep that you need, the good quality sleep, and how the body restores itself while we're sleeping and all the connections that adequate rest has to our overall health.
I think that's something we do struggle with, and sometimes it's just because, like you say, we think that we can, skimp here, I'll stay up late, I'll watch the football game till it's over with, I'll watch this, I'll get up later, or I'll get up earlier. And sometimes just throwing off that pattern can be a problem.
Right. I think a key that she'll talk about, too, is consistency and having a routine and going to bed at a regular time and waking up at a regular time. And you really can't bank sleep. You can't store it up for later when you're not going to have a chance to get adequate sleep. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, everybody thinks, well, I'll just sleep in on the weekend. I'll get all my sleep made up. And you're right. You can't bank it. So
right.
That'll be a good topic. And that is coming up on January 10th. So that'll be the way you kick things off.
That's right. We are scheduling our webinars for the second Wednesday of each month in January, February, and March. And so January 10, we'll start with that Sleep is a Superpower, hoping to get people off to a good start in the new year with some really healthy habits that support sleep. And I think that then translates to a lot of other things about our health.
The series really is a presentation type webinar, and then there's also an opportunity for questions.
There is. And I anticipate we'll have a lot more questions this time around with all 3 of our presentations. And so we do have almost an hour from 12:10 to 1 o'clock. And we'll encourage those questions to come in. And if we can't get to all of them during the time frame, we'll have our presenters answer those and we'll send them out to everybody afterwards so that we make sure we get all of those addressed.
Yeah, you also include all of the resources as well, which is really handy for people who really want to get deeper into the subject.
Right. And the webinars are recorded. So If you're like me, it always helps to hear something maybe a second time or even a third time because you might have missed something. You can go back and watch it again. Those are all recorded and then posted on our Living Well Wednesday website. We do encourage registration, however, because then we can email those to you, the resources and the links so that you know when it's posted and ready to be viewed.
For February, then, you're going to be looking at women's health and functional medicine. What's kind of the angle there?
Yes, our presenter there is actually one that our agents heard at a conference last spring, and everyone seems to remember that was at that conference. And so she really shared a lot of helpful information about the challenges that women face in particular in terms of taking care of themselves. They're oftentimes the ones who take care of other people, and oftentimes they're a caregiver all on their own, and they prioritize others before themselves. So this can lead to sleep deprivation, poor eating habits, gut issues, and increased stress, which can all cause a compromised immune system and other health issues. So she looks at how all these things weave together and can snowball and kind of impact our health. And she's a women's health nurse practitioner, Jolene Zavinska, who will look at some of these common root causes of illness in women, and including the impact that trauma and ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences, can even have on our health and well-being. She also talks about medications that are common and helping people determine, is that really medication I need to be taking? Maybe I want to try some other things first before taking that medication. So I think that's really helpful.
I think it is, because we do often get 2 or 3 or 4 medications going, and then we can really run into problems if we're not taking into account what one medication does versus another.
Right, how they interact. And oftentimes it's, at least if you don't need them, it's best to not take them, because we don't know long-term effects on a lot of these, that if you take them for a prolonged time. So I think it's really helpful to be informed, to know what they do, and if there are some other ways that you could maybe manage some lifestyle changes that you could incorporate that would allow you to maybe postpone taking those meds, or maybe you don't need them at all.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a little bit more exercise, a little bit better diet, sometimes a combination of both, and maybe even just dropping a few pounds can make a big difference.
Exactly. A lot of times, though, we like to have a pill to fix things, and that certainly seems like an easier approach, but may not be the best approach.
And overall health is something that we take for granted maybe until we start to feel like we're not feeling well, and then we address it. And it sounds like maybe this is some steps we can take along the way.
A little bit more proactive to think about some of these things before they really get to be at a critical point.
Coming up in March, then, you'll be looking at navigating diets, supplements, and women's health in a confusing world.
Yes, I love the focus of this March webinar. We do live in a confusing world. And how do we make sense of all the information that's out there? And it's easy to slip into a place where we look for what we want to hear, or we look for something that supports what we want to believe. And you can probably find it out there. But what I really want to know, and what our speaker will address, is what's really rooted in the science. And Dr. Priscilla Brennis, who is our nutrition extension specialist here at K-State, is going to be our speaker. And Dr. Brennis will address a lot of that for us, what's really rooted in science, and help us navigate all of the information around diets, look at what a balanced diet really is. And she's going to discuss the use of supplements, when you should consider taking them, and which ones, and do you really need them? We're really not sure about, too, is what are some of the long-term effects of medications that facilitate weight loss. Those are in the media a lot these days, and people are really wanting something that helps with weight loss, but we don't necessarily know what the long-term effects are and how these play out in terms of our long-term wellness, and she's going to talk about that as well.
I think one of the issues with supplements, if I remember correctly, is that not everything is FDA approved, and that can be confusing because we see it advertised, so we assume that it is supposed to do what it says.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of questions around that, and I look forward to Dr. Brennis and her presentation, help people kind of sift through all those things, understand what they're really taking and what is FDA approved, like you said, and she'll address all of those issues.
Kind of one of the exciting things here is you have brought in experts to address a couple of these topics, extension as well. So it's a nice mix of really what we do through extension is working with those various partners.
Exactly. We have a lot of partners in our local communities and on the local level, on the state level. And so some of these are speakers, like our first speaker, Michelle Lane, is one that our Wyandotte County Extension Office works with quite routinely. And so that's how we were connected to her. And so there's lots of opportunities to connect. Some of these topics are a little bit more specified and felt like a lot of us don't have quite that in-depth of knowledge around some of these issues. So I'm really glad that we have these speakers to address those for us.
The nice thing, though, is that they maybe don't have the expertise, but they do have a lot of things that dovetail into these topics that will also help, because we know that diet and exercise also helps with sleep.
Exactly. They all flow together. They're all interrelated, and our health is never just one single issue isolated on its own. All of these things play together. And so, as you notice, as we talk about women's health, it's one of the first things that sleep deprivation, what that does, poor eating habits, what that does, lack of physical activity. And so these are things that all interrelate, and I just really excited about this series, and I think it'll be really beneficial to the people of Kansas and beyond.
And it's also going to flow right into Walk Kansas, which will kick off in mid-March.
It will. And a lot of the programming that we do around all of these issues. So Walk Kansas, our Stay Strong, Stay Healthy, which is strength training for older adults, helps people maintain their independence longer. We also have Dining with Diabetes, lots of other nutrition programming that we do, health-related programming. So a lot of this supports and provides, I think, the scientific background and the basis, the root foundation for the programming that we offer.
Sometimes just the education and the awareness is kind of winning half the battle if you can get people to think about it, pay attention to it, and maybe realize that, I probably could do some things that might help me sleep better. Maybe I do need to focus more on my health and not just my kids' health or my husband's health.
Right. And you can be a better caretaker and supporter for them if you're taking care of your health first. So that's something that we often forget, but we need to remind each other of that.
There's also a lot of just background information. I know that all of these are archived, so people can go back and if they're interested in a specific topic, chances are it's probably been covered.
We do have a lot of webinars in the archive already, and those can be found on our Living Well website. And the easiest way to find that is just do a search, KSRE, Living Well Wednesday. It should pop up at the top of your list pretty easily that way. Or contact your local extension office if you have any trouble finding these. The registration link and descriptions of our upcoming programs will be there. Also, all the recordings and the supporting resources for past webinars. There are a wide range of topics that relate to what Family Consumer Sciences agents do in their local communities. And you'll see a vast array of things represented there just to help people live well. And that's what our purpose is. I do want to mention, too, that we'll have two webinars that are in Spanish in the spring. We'll be repeating one of our fall presentations on baby brain development, and that's going to be on January 17. And then Dr. Brennis is also going to do a presentation in Spanish. That'll be March 20. So there'll be registration links again for the Spanish options there on the website.
Another option, and really something that we're trying to do more of, is reach other audiences.
Right. We're excited that Dr. Brennis can do these both in English and Spanish. So we'll take advantage of that.
That's K-State Research and Extension Family and Consumer Sciences Specialist for the Northeast Region, Sharolyn Jackson, with information on the Living Well Wednesday webinar series. The Winter-Spring series starts January 10th with Michelle Lane, the Senior Director of Community Wellness and Corporate Health at North Kansas City Hospital, discussing sleep is a superpower. February 14th, women's health practitioner Jolene Zavinska discusses the common root causes of illness in women, including the impact that trauma and adverse childhood experiences have on well-being. March 13th, Priscilla Brennis, State Extension Specialist in the K-State Department of Food, Nutrition, Dietetics, and Health, covers the keys to a healthy and balanced diet, how and when to use supplements, and wellness tips for women. All of the sessions begin at 12:10 and end at 1 p.m. If you haven't registered for the series or want more information, go to ksre.ksu.edu/FCS and click on the link for Living Well Wednesday. If you're not able to view a webinar live, all sessions are recorded and posted online for viewing at any time. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.